in all honesty, if I had to do a business partner again, I don't think I would do it. The next step would probably be over $1 million to get basically the return, the ROI on what I've already spent on the company.
So today we have Matt Kelly, who is really in our local market down here in Texas. So he's based out of Prosper, and no, he is not my brother, but
We're brothers. We're brothers in a different kind of way, right?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I do agree with that, but it's funny, like even our office manager, when we were first working together, she was like, "Is that your brother?" And I'm like, "No, that's not my brother."
Yeah, if I get the beard long enough, I start to get the red in the beard. So we definitely have those similarities. The Kelly, the Irish Kelly.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So Matt owns Harvest Exteriors, and he's actually had quite a bit of journey, and I'll let you kind of, I guess, share with us, Matt, like really kind of like how you started in the business. I know you had a different like business partner, and like where are you at today? I think you're basically running the whole entire operation now, if I recall correctly.
That's
So
right. That's right.
yeah, what, like, I guess get everybody up to speed where you're at today.
Well, I guess to backtrack a little, so I jumped on board with this thing in 2020, kind of at the thick of COVID, basically. I was working for another bigger commercial landscaping company at that time, and I had a couple people from church approach me that had started a landscaping company. These guys basically started it because they wanted to give back to the local community. They didn't really know much about landscaping. They knew I had a background in landscaping. They were kind of geared more towards residential and just like basically doing junk pickup, mowing yards, just any kind of general cleanup on an exterior. And so they had asked me to come on board. I guess that would have been probably January when they asked me. And after a couple months of thinking about it, March of 2020, I jumped on board. Man, we just started rolling. I took it in a completely different direction because it had to gain a lot of revenue at that time, because we had to maintain my salary because I couldn't lose that, what I was making at the other company. So we really had to ramp things up quickly. So that first year, kind of make a long story short, that first year we ended up doing, I think, about $350,000 in revenue. And they were doing 20 for those over those 3 months that before I came on. So next year, 2021, we doubled that basically. It was around 650, so not fully double, but close. We were doing residential and commercial, so we were doing both during those couple years. And then 2022, Peyton and Matt kind of started getting away from the business and just saying that they didn't feel like they were helping enough the way it could be helped. And I just kept going with it. They backed out, basically kind of gave me free reign to do whatever I wanted. I actually brought another business partner in at that time. His name was Ryan, and great dude, ex-baseball player, awesome guy. He just, he didn't know landscaping. He was great. He was great at mowing. He was great at running the crews, but he didn't have like a business background and a sales background. And that's really where I needed help, is kind of more on the business side of things rather than the running crew side of things. And so we decided to part ways. I bought his equity portion out, and then I became 100% owner in 2023. So today, like I said, it's a long story to all of it. So to make a long story short, today we're looking at probably doing about 850,000 this year, doing commercial landscaping, being like HOAs, commercial office spaces, banks, and then we do residential landscape installs. We don't do any residential mowing or anything like that. So that's where we're at in 2024.
Yeah, dude, that's incredible. Just like all of those hurdles too, of like changing like different partners in the business and like growing it, doing residential and commercial, and then shifting over fully to commercial. You've accomplished a lot, and so this is why I wanted to have you on, because I feel like you have so much good knowledge. I want to backtrack a little bit. So, do you
Sure.
remember the first time that we actually met, me, you, and Larissa?
I absolutely do. I do. Yeah, we went to lunch at Panera, I believe, right?
Yeah, yeah. I think that was definitely one of the beginnings ones, but I think the very first time we ever met, you were selling a 32-inch Skag stand on, And I found you on Facebook Marketplace. I'm like, hey, like, how much is the mower and all that stuff? And then we met up at like the little yard that you used to park at behind the church.
Oh yeah,
And then I got on. That was the first time I was ever on a 32-inch stand on, but it was definitely testing it and stuff. And
yeah.
we were looking at buying that for our setup to try to be more efficient on lawns and stuff like that. So, um,
That's right. And it's funny you said that because so much has gone on in the last 4 years that I literally don't even remember that piece. I do remember eating lunch at Panera, but man, we had so much going over the last 4 years that I forgot about that.
yeah. So then I think the meeting at Panera was us to basically become partners in business, where it's like where we were doing subcontracting for your clients. So you would do really the mowing packages for them, and then we would do like the spraying of the fertilizing and the weed control, which worked out really well. It allowed us to basically really find our niche, because we realized that some of those properties were too far big for us. um,
Yeah.
but it helped us realize like what our niche is, which is really that small cookie cutter size. And so, but yeah, I just wanted to think back and reminisce on that, because yeah, it's been about, is that what, 4 years now?
Oh yeah. Yeah. It has to be. I mean, it's time flies, man, when you're busy.
Yeah, absolutely. So I wanted to ask you that this one's off the whim. This actually wasn't a question I had written down. Obviously, you've had, it sounds like, three-ish business partners. What do you think, like, if somebody is looking at going into business with a business partner, obviously you've had a few, like, what should they be looking for? Like you said, business minded, sales minded. Like, what have you learned through that, what to look for in a good business partner?
Great question, man. Business partners are tough. Okay, that's one thing I will say. It is hard. Even with the closest of friends, family members, it probably is actually harder with those type of people too. You really have to have somebody of the same mindset and going in the exact same direction that you're going. That would be my recommendation if you're going to have a business partner. But in all honesty, just being candid here, if I had to do a business partner again, I don't think I would do it. I think owning and operating a company by yourself is probably the best way to go. Now, if you have somebody on the back end of just financial backing or something like that, great, that's fine. But to have somebody day to day operating the company with you, it's tough. But if you're going to do it, again, they have to really be of the same mindset as you and going in the same direction.
Yeah. So why wouldn't you have a business partner?
It's just been tough, man. It's just tough. I have done this so long, I guess. I'm kind of set in my ways. So I may be a little bit different of a situation because I think I'm not as, and I know that sounds bad, but I'm not as open minded when it comes to the way I want things done with my company in lawn care. And so I think it makes it a little harder, me personally, but that's one of the reasons. And the other is just, it causes friction. It just does. It's always going to cause friction in a relationship, especially if one person is giving more than the other person. And so, there's always going to be that friction there.
Yeah, absolutely. Makes sense. Makes sense. It's like what they people say, it's like marriage, you got to
It
definitely
is.
pick your partner correctly and make sure that, like you said, everybody's pulling in the right direction.
It is. It is. It's exactly like marriage.
Yeah. So you and our business are almost like same industry, but almost opposite in the realm where we actually got rid of all of our commercial customers, and we
Yep.
are only focused on cookie cutter small residential, to where
Yeah.
you took it the extreme opposite and said, I want to get rid of all of my residentials, or as many as I can,
Sure.
and really do those larger commercial properties. So why commercial?
Well, for commercial for us, or for me, made the most sense because in my mind, I've done this so long now and working for commercial companies, I have seen companies get acquired and be sold. And so I've always had in the, being of the mindset of knowing that I'm going to sell at some point down the road. Now that's happened a lot quicker recently, but yeah, I knew I was always going to build this thing up to sell. And with commercial properties, the recurring revenue is one thing that is really unbeatable as far as like selling goes, because that's what companies or individuals, private equity firms, that's what they look for when they're buying a company, is the recurring revenue. Super important, and you have to be consistent and show growth over those years. And so commercial is just, and it's so much more consistent. Residential is great too, and not to frown upon residential, but especially me being by myself, it was a lot more to handle, a lot more customers. I didn't have a huge background in residential, and so I didn't know, exactly the organization I wanted to go with if I did residential. So I just was geared more toward that commercial field.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it definitely helps like in the off season or the winter season, the slow season, because with commercial, I mean, they're really, I think that's like the prime opportunity to get customers, right? Is like towards like the end of the year, once a new year kind of hits, that's like the, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong. Or is it typically in the springtime when things start to grow again?
Yeah, so actually, they usually have what's called RFPs, return for proposals, from property management companies, typically in October. That's when they
Mm,
kind of do their budget. That's their budget season, basically. And so
gotcha.
then they start, the boards, HOA boards, and different people start looking at budgets for the next year. And so they start asking to bid those properties out.
Gotcha, gotcha. One of the main reasons why I wanted you to come on this is because you're going through the process right now to basically sell, which I do want to talk about here soon. We have a lot of viewers that want to get into commercial properties and accounts to grow and scale their business. How are you acquiring new customers? I just like, I know we picked up a handful of them, right? And like I remember like in the back in the day, like I would literally walk into businesses and be like, "Hey, who's the manager here who manages the property? That's who I want to speak to. My name is Will." And like I hit like 10 companies. I guess like, I mean, I know you have a website, but what do you think is the best way for somebody to acquire new commercial customers?
Yeah, so really the way to do it is get in with property management companies. That's really the only way, because they're the ones that manage the HOAs. So if you can get in with property management companies, just ask them for the business, just like you would with residential. Say, hey, we're a company, we're starting out. We'd love to earn you guys trust and business. Can you give us a property that you guys maybe see fit with a smaller company that we could handle and do a good job for you, and just get your foot in the door like that. But that's where you're going to get the businesses, with the property management companies.
Awesome. All right. So you came up with your partner, you own this for 4 years, and you're in the process right now to literally sell. I guess I would ask like why? Why would you want to sell? And I guess like if you could maybe like walk us through the process of like what that even looks like. I know that you mentioned that you did have a broker, but like what does that process even look like, and why would somebody want to sell, like the business?
Yeah, no, great questions. I guess the why is, for me, is that I just don't have the financial backing like some of the bigger companies have. And so I feel like I've reached my personal financial limit of what I want to spend to grow this company. I feel like I've also, without getting to that next level, like I said, we're on board to do probably 800,000 this year. The next step would probably be, over a million and a half, 2 million, to get basically the return, the ROI, on what I've already spent on the company. Again, just reaching that financial limit for me personally is why I'm selling. I'm actually going to stay on board with the person who's going to be buying me. The consulting agreement is going to last for a year. But he'll probably keep me on longer because he doesn't have a landscaping background like I do. So he's gonna want me to stick around, since I know the ins and outs of this business. And it frees me up. I mean, it frees me up. It gets me out of debt. Obviously, you're a Dave Ramsey guy. Getting out of debt is super important, and so being fully out of debt is awesome. And now I can venture to something else. After this year, if things don't work out exactly the way I want them with this new guy that's buying me, then I can go to the next venture and I'll have money to do that.
Yeah, that's awesome. So when you're looking at selling your business, like do you just jump online, go to Google, type in like business broker, and just start picking up the phone, calling? How does one even go about that? Do you need a broker? Like, I guess, what does that process look like?
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny you say that. Actually, I mean, that's kind of how I did it. I Googled business brokers. I reached out to a couple, and they basically they do an evaluation of your business. They'll tell you, hey, here's what we think it's worth. They do it based on what's called EBITDA, and it's a business term, I'm sure you know. They look at your revenue because they want to see, what's your profit, what's your net profit after everything's paid. That's basically what EBITDA is. And so, they have a multiplier, and so they say, hey, okay, you're cash flowing $50,000 a year, which is your net profit. We think you can get a 4 times multiple for your business based on your cash flow. So 50,000 times 4, 200,000. That's what your business is worth. And so when I reached out, like I said, I reached out to a couple. I had a couple different people. There's quite a difference in the evaluations. And so I was like, well, kind of concerned me a little bit. But the one I ended up going with, and don't mind plugging them because they're awesome. It's called Transworld Business Brokers. They're out of McKinney. Dan is my business broker. Great dude. They did an evaluation, and it was pretty high. To be honest with you, I was like, if I get that, that's great. My expectations weren't to get that full amount, but they did find me a ton of people that were very interested. They brought me quite a few interested parties, and we landed on one. And I liked it because it's not just about the money really for me either. It's also getting the right person, because Harvest is my baby. I've really built a good name for this company, and I want to continue that. And I need somebody that's going to buy me, that's going to be able to help continue that name along with me running it still.
Yeah.
And so Transworld was able to do that. They found a person that was we had gone to lunch with, and we both really hit it off, and I think he's going to be a good partner moving forward. And I say partner, I don't mean business partner, because I'm not going to be a partner, but as far as like buying.
Yeah, that's awesome. Buying your baby, man. He's gonna be taking it over.
Yeah.
You'll still be running it. So how long
Yeah.
does the process like take? Like, I mean, when how long has it been since you found that broker? They found, a buyer. You guys went out to lunch. I'm sure there's a ton of paperwork like
Yep.
involved with having to figure out numbers, balance sheets, income and expense forms, like all that stuff. Like, how long does the process typically take?
Yeah, great question. It takes quite a while. They tee it up and they let you know, hey, this can be anywhere from 8 to 10 months, because first of all, they got to find a buyer. Then secondly, they got to find the right buyer for you too. And so I guess it was July or August of last year we started this process. Lots of lunches, lots of meetings. Some were individuals, some were already established businesses commercial landscape companies looking to acquire another landscaping company in the area. Those tended to be not as good a fit because they didn't want to give me the multiple that I wanted. For whatever reason, they just didn't. The multiples on already existing commercial landscaping companies that were trying to acquire you were like a 2.5. So like I said, we ended up finding an individual that really liked the direction we were going in. He's going to keep his job too, so he'll be what's called like a semi-absentee owner, and just a really good fit. And so I guess it's been about months now since we started this. There's consulting agreements that you have to have. Outside of that is employment agreement, business agreements. You have to go through the CPA. My CPA had to get them a bunch of paperwork. So it's a process. It really is.
Yeah. Wow. So the big question is did it go through? Has it fully gone through yet?
We're close. We're about a week out now.
Wow.
I think I talked to you. We're basically right now. It's if you in buying a house, which I'm sure you have. It's in a title company right now. They call it an escrow lawyers firm, but it's technically just like a title company. So they're handling all the paperwork, getting all the paperwork ready. Because they have to pay off debt at closing. They have to get all the paperwork for employment, consulting agreements, all those things in one document to be able to go to closing.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so it looks like We're hoping for the 24th of May is what we're hoping for.
Wow.
And then I can ride into Memorial Day and go to the beach and have some fun for a little bit.
Yeah, you go out and celebrate a little bit, man. That's super exciting. I'm super super happy for you. So through this process, what advice would you give somebody to try to like did the broker give you any advice of like, hey, here's how you kind of prep the business to sell? Or like I know you already have your annual contract, so I'm sure that's a huge plus to get that
Yep.
in place versus like residential where there are no, well, depending on if you require it or not, we don't. But like did they give you any advice to kind of try to prep things? And if so, like what things did you need to prep?
It was crazy enough is like I said, I've kind of since I've been through this process before with other commercial companies that have gotten bought out, I kind of knew what was going to be needed. And in talking to other brokers before, and I ask a lot of questions. I probably overly ask a lot of questions, and so I learned a lot by that. And so I was almost able to have everything that they really needed, which is crazy because Dan, my current broker, he's like, man, he's like, you've got all your CPA in order. Your CPA's got everything, all your books in order. You got all your contracts in order. You got all your, tax statement, just everything. So really, I didn't have to have much, and so that was the good part is,
Yeah.
there wasn't much that I really needed to take this all the way to closing.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So what's the next steps look like for Matt Kelly? So obviously you're basically going to be working there as like a consultant, but also like working in the day to day for what the next 12 months. And
Correct.
then
Yeah, because the SBA. So if you're ever doing a SBA loan and you sell a business, that person that stays on board, the original owner, can technically only stay on for 12 months, and you can only be a consultant. You can't be an employee of your own company. I guess that keeps people from buying their own company out, I guess, and cashing out on that. I'm assuming that's probably why they do that. But yeah, that's the plan for right now.
that's awesome, man. That's awesome. Well, I'm super excited for you. I appreciate you coming on and sharing that valuable information. Yeah, I really appreciate it. I guess if anybody is here watching, maybe in the local area and wants to reach out to you, has questions that maybe is looking at selling their business, where can maybe they reach you at if they have questions for you?
Yeah, you can email me at any time. It's Matt MATTK at Harvest HARVEST exteriors EXTERIORS.com.
Awesome, awesome. Well, Matt, thank you so much for jumping on the call today. That this was awesome. I think this is going to help.
Absolutely.
I think this is going to help a lot of people.
Absolutely. Thank you, Will. I really appreciate it, man. You've been a good friend in the industry, and look forward to talking to you in the future.
Absolutely, absolutely. Appreciate it, man.
All right, sir. Have a good one.